Well, it wasn't a sycamore tree, it was a fig tree or something like that. So then he went and looked it up and he says, no, wait a minute, it was a sycamore tree. It was a variation of sycamore. And what did they replace it with? A cedar. Now go figure. Now who would have known that they would do that? You go, wow, that's just like playing right into these words. Yeah, we rock. And you go, wait a minute. The next verse said, previous and after that, he always says, I stirred up the enemies of Israel in order to come in there and give them what for. But they replied with arrogant haughtiness. Oh yeah! And then he said, so I stirred up the enemies and empowered the adversaries. And this guy named Rezin, who was the leader of Israel. Well, wait a minute. This event that they're quoting was the beginning of the end for Israel. Assyria came in with a 13-year siege. Finally, in 721, they overwhelmed and they wiped out the whole country, taking them to captivity, and they've never been heard of since. Israel has not been found since. Anybody that comes back to Judah is qualified as a Jew. Those who have come back to Israel are all called Jews. What happened to the northern kingdom? Lost in obscurity. For how long? Look at Ezekiel chapter 4. He says, Ezekiel, lie naked outside the walls of Jerusalem, put up a little map and point at it, and sit there and eat your food cooked on human dung. And he says, ah, come on. Okay, you can do cow dung. Literally, that's what he's saying. And he's laying there and he says, lie on your side 40 days for the house of Yehudah, then lie on your other side 390 days for the house of Ephraim. Northern kingdom, 390 days, pinned to his side. He couldn't get up. I mean, he must have had some kind of angel sitting on him. I mean, he couldn't, oh, come on. Imagine if everybody tried to do it today. It would be dragged off. 390 days. What happened? He said day for year. Well, 390 years after 721, you can do the math. Is that 400 BC? What happened in 400 BC? Well, Alexander the Great and the Macedonian taking over the Greek Empire, that was somewhere around the 300 or 400. The Hasmoneans, the Maccabees and all those around the 300s. And it's like, Israel never came back. What about another 390 years? Another 400 years from that would put it around the time of Yeshua, but Israel never came back. Why not? What did he say in Leviticus 26? 4 times Yahweh said, if you guys keep the covenant, I will give you the blessings. But if you don't keep the word to this covenant, I will multiply the blessings 7. 7 ways, 7 times, like your sin. 7, with the letter Zion, well, I had that there. The letter Zion is 7, but it also means to swear an oath. I will multiply the curse by 7, which is the sworn oath of 7. So where do we get this 7 business being the special number? There's nothing special about a 7 or a Zion, more so than any other letter. Each one of these letters are supreme in their own regard. There's not one above the other. What's this big deal about 7 being the holy number? It means to swear an oath. Like the Jewish wife, 7 times around. The 7th day Sabbath, the 7 festivals, swearing an oath. He will multiply the regard of Israel as if we're 7 times more glorious than any other nation on the face of the earth. And if they betray with treachery the oath of the covenant, he will multiply 7 times their punishment. And he says it 4 times. The letter 4 is a dalet, which is the door, which is like a choice, which is, pay his mouth that opens, the dalet, which is a door that opens, something that closes, something that imprisons you. And you can say, well, you can put all these things together. But you go, Israel never came back. Israel must have incurred 7 times the curse. What was the curse? 390 days, a day for a year. Well, 7 times 390 is 2,730. You just do the math. 7 times 390. 721, 2009. But there's no year 0. It makes it 2010. So 2010 is the end of that 2,730-year curse.
That's 2008.
No year 0.
Year 0 would be
2010, you have to pick one up. So my point is, as of 2010,
Why do you get rid of it?
because there was no 0. It was from 1 BC to 1 AD. In other words, you can't just add 2,730 to 721 and come up with 2009 every 1 year. But what I'm saying is, there was a 13-year siege. So the first cities to fall to the attack of the Assyrians 13 years earlier. Well, that puts it in 1997. Most of the people that I've ever heard of, not all, but most of the people that have ever started coming back to the Torah regarding these words started about 1997. What else happened in 1997? Well, that was the Million-Man Christian March on Washington, D.C. What came of that? Anything? Nothing? What did that open up? As of 2010, what's happened? People coming back to these words, people having an interest. Could it be that after the time of 2,730 years, that we finally say, like Daniel said to the southern kingdom, Yahweh, you're right, we've inherited life. Our forefathers have done wickedly, and so have we. We've turned our back on your Torah. We didn't know any better, but hey, we were in jail. We didn't know. We were kept out of the kingdom by your own decree, but time's up. You said we could come home. Let us come home. And when we come home, you said we could inherit the blessing that has been held in abeyance for all these years. He promised a blessing on the descendants of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, and none of our forefathers ever took it. And I found words translated from the Hebrew that says he has held up all these treasures, saying, looking down on us and saying, you guys want this yet? Anybody want this? Have you guys had enough? Have you guys had enough of the torment of the Mitzrayim, the bondage, the oppression of your adversaries, which I set up against you? And then you read back what he said in the Harbinger, and when they said, no, we're going to rebuild. Are we going to say those words? Or are we going to say, yes, we've had enough. No, you don't have to increase it anymore. Please, let us chazir, let us teshuvah, let us return back and eat the food at our Father's table. Let us eat the things that he said to eat. When he says, this is food for you, no witchcraft, no incestuous sex, no homosexuality, don't eat the pork, don't eat the rats, don't eat the condors, eat what chews its cut and has a split hoof. This is food for you. I am Kadosh, you should be Kadosh. All through Leviticus, he always says repeatedly, I am Kadosh, you're going to be Kadosh. Israel, you are my son. You are my firstborn. You are my betrothed. You are my bride. You are my people. And for all these years, people of Israel have said, no thanks. What I'm suggesting is, because these are Yahweh's words, and these are Kadosh, for us to talk about these words and say, hey, this is him, we're doing Ezekiel 36:23. We are making his Shem HaGadol Kadosh in the eyes of the Goyim nation. In the eyes doesn't mean in front of their face. It means in the understanding, to open the eyes of the understanding of all the Goyim, those who have lost their route because of a bad rudder, bad teaching and learning, bad thinking. The other interesting thing, the word Celt, C-E-L-T. The C is the letter G, actually in Hebrew, which is the Gimel, and the Lamed and the Tav. But if you write in Hebrew, it would be Gimel, Lamed, Tav. Who were they? The Galut. If you have a Vav Tav, which is plural of the Gimel Lamed. The Gimel Lamed is a revolving door, like a rolling stone, that which keeps rolling like a ball. The Celts have a certain pattern, which is a circle with this woven knot all the way around. The Galut, like in the, I think it was Warner Brothers or Bugs Bunny, the cartoons, the guys, you're a big Galut, Mel Blanc said that, you're a big stupid idiot. Yosemite Sam was there. Okay, that was a Jewish thing. You big Galut, you stupid idiot, you darn fool. That was what the southern kingdom called the northern kingdom. The stupid idiot, 10 tribes of Ephraim, who threw away the covenant and defiled it and got taken into captivity and scattered up into Gaul, Galatia. Pluralized the word Gaul is Galut, which is where you get the word Celt, replacing the G for the C. So the Celtic knot, which the Vikings used, also is to make proud the symbol of their curse. You guys are going to wander around in circles like this knot with no beginning and no end, never finding your way home for 2,730 years until Yahweh says, okay, you can come back. And then you look at Exodus 20, I think it's verse 21, and it says, in all places where I allow my Shem to be remembered, 24, Exodus 20:24, there I will come to you and bless you. Or there I will import myself to bring blessing upon you. The word for import myself is where you get the word Vo, as in Yavo, as in Lonnie Tudor's newsletter of Lion and Lamb Ministries, something like that. The word Yavo, the one who was and is to come, that word to come is Yavo. So here you go, wait a minute. Yahweh says the word is Azakir, Aleph, Zayin, Yod, Kaf, Resh, is where you get the word Shem, Zakar. The word Zakar is Zayin, Kaf, Resh. And he says, Yod He Vav He is my Shem of Zakar. That's where you get the word ceremonial or remembrance or memorial. It's actually masculine, male, like the father's name or the family surname of lineage, which goes down throughout the generations. There's more to it than that. If you look in Hebrew and break this thing open, you can spend an hour just discussing what the word Shem Zakar means. But nevertheless, he says, in all places where I allowed or caused the Zakar of my Shem, I will come to you and bless you. What we are doing here talking about is not just remembering Yud He Vav He. but we're remembering the Shem. We're zakaring the Shem of Yahweh, which has been held trapped for all these years. And you go to Daniel 12. I'll show you this one thing. I don't know how it's getting 9:45. I don't know how much longer people have, but we're thinning out here a bit. Let me show you this one last thing. This one last little proof from Daniel 12. I'll show you the proof of what I think Daniel did. The angel Gabriel came to Daniel. This is the last chapter of the book. Daniel's already lived his life. He's already been thrown in the lions' den and escaped. He's already been interpreted the dreams of Nebuchadnezzar and the handwriting on the wall and all this other business. So the angel Gabriel comes to Daniel and says, okay, Daniel, hide the words and seal the book till the time of the end. That's an aleph, that's a concept, that's a plan. For many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. The other way to read that is many shall search diligently, and knowledge shall increase. Well, the next letter is a bet, and that's a container. And you could say, well, there's something hidden in this container. What container? What's a container? What are people looking around for? That's another part of the story. But he says, the next verse says, the gimbal position of the next piece as it goes around like clips on a wheel. He says, I, Daniel, looked and I saw one on this side of the river and one on that side. Well, if you're looking this side and that side, your head's gimbaling back and forth. That's a gimbal position. I'm trying to show you a pattern within the code according to the alphabetic pattern. Dalet. Then I saw one above the waters of the river, clothed in white linen. You say, well, who's the one clothed in white linen? The one, the singular one, clothed in white linen. White linen, that speaks of righteousness. Water is like peoples of the earth, and there's one above the peoples of the earth, clothed in white linen, which speaks of righteousness. Well, Yeshua said, I'm the door. I'm the Dalet. I'm that guy that Daniel was referring to. We're just kind of linking things together here, connecting the dots. Was he talking about Yeshua? And I saw one above the waters of the river, clothed in white linen. And I said, hey, how long till end of these wonders? Well, the letter Hey is a revelation. He was asking for a revelation, saying, hey, how long till the end of these wonders? And this one, the Dalet, stood there and hold up his hands, his right hand and his left hand, the Vav man in the Dalet position, Vav, Dalet, Vav, and he swore by him who lives forever. Well, that's the sign. Well, who lives forever? According to Revelation, he said, I'm the Aleph Tav, and I'm the one who is dead, and yet I live. And I live forever. So he was claiming to be the Dalet that was the Vav man Zion, that it would be for